So every once in a while, you get to be audacious with Aisha, and today we have a very audacious, very special guest. Her name is Kristen Shea. Is that right?
It is, yeah.
So, Kristen, introduce yourself to the people who don't know you at all, and if you were to tell about yourself, about a little bit in a small introduction about your story, who you are, what you do, how you do it, how would you say it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you. And my name is Kristen Shea. I'm a visibility coach. And so I help people overcome the fear of being seen, which is essentially the fear of being themselves. So I combine all of my skills as a psychic, a channel, a quantum healer, as well as a publicist and a content creator. And I bring that all together so that people can heal the parts of themselves that are afraid to be seen and then learn how to start expressing themselves into the world.
So you're both on the spiritual side and at the same time on the intellectual side, and you pair both of them together, and of
Yeah.
course, help people combine both of those things and understand themselves better.
Yeah.
So, as a visibility and a transformational coach, what do you think is the biggest problem that people go through in terms of being more visible and having a real transformation and what we usually call a breakthrough?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is fear. Because when somebody's trying to put themselves out there, all the stories kind of come into the head, right? So it's like, what is my
Yeah.
family going to think? What is society? What is culture going to think? What are the people from high school going to think? And so there's all these voices in our head about how people are going to perceive us, and it stops us from being who we truly are and being able to express ourselves. So a lot of times, what I teach people is within that fear are a lot of core wounds like shame, unworthiness, not feeling good enough, not feeling valuable enough, or those types of things. So that's one of the biggest things is that getting to the core wounds underneath your visibility is really important, because otherwise you can create content, but if you have a fear of being seen, your energy will go out there and no one will see it. And then it kind of fulfills that self-fulfilling prophecy of nobody wants to hear what I have to say anyways. So for me, it's about like the core wounds and then teaching people how to express themselves all through identity work.
Okay, okay. Well, that's very unique in a way that, nobody really talks about first healing the wounds, and so many people underestimate the importance of healing before they, dive right into making content or, doubling down on what they really want to do in their career path. So when you talk to people about healing their wounds, what's one answer that you usually get?
Yeah. The first thing is most people are like, I've been on a healing journey for a long time. I've done a lot of the inner work. I don't know why I'm stuck. So that's almost always the first resistance is that they feel like they've already done the work and they're not getting the results. And then the other part that can be really hard to look at is to like really look at the wound. So if you hold a lot of shame, shame's a
Mhm.
painful thing to look at. And so people tend to avoid it or try to glaze over it. But that's actually one of the biggest wounds is shame, and then that leads to the unworthiness. So that's like I think the biggest thing that people say is like, I just don't understand why this isn't working. I've done all the healing work.
Yeah. So, uh, I guess you know, a lot of this is linked to manifestation.
Hmm.
And, while of course being visible, when if you want to be visible, there's also the part where you want to attract the right opportunities. And
Hmm.
so getting visible also feels right, and it's for the right purpose. So I guess what I want to ask you there is, let's, talk a bit about manifestation, because I think it's really linked with the psychic abilities that you use. And of course, being visible and having transformation is, of course, through opportunities. So I've gone through a bit of your videos, and, actually, did I tell you that the way I was able to find you is I've been struggling with all of these things myself, and you just popped up in my feed. And
Oh, I didn't
then,
know
yeah,
that.
and then I went to your page and I'm like, oh my God, this woman is great. And
Yeah.
so And then from there on, I contacted you, and that's also, it's maybe you wanted to manifest an opportunity to speak on another platform. And
Yeah.
maybe I wanted an opportunity to speak to someone like you, who's,
Mhm.
is visible on so many levels, who's doing
Yeah.
so great, and has so much knowledge that so many women like me crave.
Yeah.
So I guess in the work that you do, how do you deal, and how do you, what kind of advice would you give to people who want to manifest things, but at the same time they feel blocks in those manifestations?
That's a really good question. So with manifestation, I say there's always two pieces because I think that manifestation is really powerful, but I also think it's taught the wrong way a lot of times. And it's like just sit there and visualize and it'll happen. But it's a combination of action, which is like the most important part, taking action. Because some people will be like, I'm visualizing and nothing's happening. But
Mhm.
like even in your journey, you reached out and contacted, like you took action, right? So there's like this thing you wanted, but you took action on it. And so that's one really important piece I think a lot of people miss. And then the
Uh-huh.
other thing I would say is that at the heart of manifestation is your identity. And so, you know, it's thinking about is the is the thing that you're manifesting authentic? So sometimes I'll hear people are manifesting money and they're doing it because they think it'll make them worthy. That makes it really hard to manifest when you feel unworthy. And
Yeah.
so it's about clearing those blocks, right? When you're more in touch with who you are and what you want to do, and then you have this thing where you're like, I want to connect with people who do XYZ, that's a lot easier to manifest because it's not like wounding within the field that kind of blocks you. So you have to kind of look at like the why behind your manifestation, right? And if you're manifesting something because it's going to make you more valuable or more worthy or more whatever, that's actually the exact block that you need to clear to manifest the thing that you want to manifest. And so it's really like a combination of being able to clear that block. Then you do like the visualization and you feel what it will feel like you be in that vibration, and then you take action, and then manifestation comes in really fast.
Yeah, yeah, you're really right on the, the aspect of you want those things to feel worthy, but if you don't feel worthy in already the identity you hold, then how's it
Yeah.
gonna work? So I guess another question would be, how can people feel more worthy in themselves?
Yeah. So one of the things that I teach with my one-to-one clients is that who we become is a lot of based about how our parents and our caretakers mirrored ourselves to us, right?
Yeah.
So like when we're younger, we really look to our parents to show us what's okay, who can I be, what am I rewarded for. So for women, I see they're often rewarded based on achievement, and so a lot of their value is like wrapped up in what they have or haven't achieved.
Hmm.
And so that can like breed in the unworthiness. So if like somebody isn't feeling worthy, it's really important to be like, well, what part of me is not worthy? Do I think I need to be prettier? Do I need to lose weight? Do I need to achieve more? Do I need to like, what is the thing that would make them quote unquote feel worthy? And then they have to start to like figure out what stories have been told to them about that thing, right? And so a lot of women I work with really struggle with visibility because they're like, I don't like the way I look. I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to look younger. I want to whatever it is. Those are all stories that are in a woman's mind about what beauty is. So, how do you find what true beauty is without society telling you what it is? And so you just have to kind of look at like, what is the thing that I think would make me worthy of whatever it is I want? And then what stories am I making up or have I been told about what it actually means to be worthy? And then you kind of have to write your own definition and say, like, no, I'm worthy of being seen regardless of what I think I look like or what I think, makes me valuable to someone. And when you find that stuff within yourself, that will clear a lot of the unworthiness.
Yeah, yeah. So, how, I'm really right about how we're all products of our childhood. And
Yeah.
so the feeling of worthiness, the feeling, we see how so many people, in their adult lives, they feel so entitled, while some other people, they feel like they don't belong. So those are two very different types of identities. And I've seen that you really talk about, different identities. And one thing that I've heard you talk about is a matrix identity. So I want to ask you, what's that? And, what are the traits of a matrix identity? How can, people be more self-aware if they have such an identity? And if it's problematic or if it's good, then what should they change?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the matrix identity is what I describe as like kind of like your survival identity. It's who you had to become in
Mhm.
order to feel quote unquote safe in this world, right? So it's, created in a whole number of ways. If you think back to a child, and what they're shown is like, you have to be quiet, you have to be polite, you have to do X. And then also whatever that family valued. So like if that family really valued sports, you might play a lot of sports, but that wasn't your true identity. It's just what was valued about you or what the family rewarded, right? Or if they really rewarded like education achievement, that starts to become who you are, but that overrides what your true identity is. And then we have like the societal programs, the matrix programs, which is like, the beauty standards. So like we saw, over the last few years, all of a sudden everybody was getting like Brazilian butt lifts because that's what they were told was beautiful. And
Yeah.
so it's like, do they even want that? Or are they just trying to be beautiful because this is what society has said is beautiful? You have to do a corporate job in order to be successful. You can't use your spiritual gifts. So there's all these different things that contribute. And so we end up becoming, who we are based off of all of those circumstances. And we never actually get in touch with who we truly are. Maybe we're an artist that was never meant to play sports or be in school. And maybe there's, the artistic side of us that wasn't nurtured. Maybe there's the part of us that's always buying the new trendiest item because we want to fit in with everybody else. But it's like, do we even like that item? Like, do we even care? Or are we just trying to blend in and feel like a part of something? And so most people are unconsciously like living out a matrix identity. They're not even sure who they are because it's not nurtured within us. Like, even if you think back to school, they never nurture individuality. It's always like a collective classroom that's being taught the exact same thing the exact same way. There's no like self exploration for children to like
Exactly.
explore
Yeah.
themselves. So it's like it starts so early that our identity totally shapes and we don't even know it's being shaped. And then we end up in these adult lives and we can start to be like, well, who am I? What do I even want? Like, am I even living the life I want? Why am I doing the things I'm doing? And so that's what I call like the matrix identity, which is just, it's not you.
Mhm.
It's who you think you have to be to survive in the world, to make money, to be loved, to be accepted, to be like, brought into, family and groups and things like that. And so what I teach people is to start shedding that identity because your abundance, all the money you want to make, all of the things you want to manifest, all of the love you want to experience, all of those things come from being yourself. Otherwise, everything you receive is part of this matrix identity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think the question would be, how do you start shedding that identity?
Yeah, the first part is the awareness, right? Because most people
Yeah.
have no idea. So it's like really breaking down what makes up a matrix identity, like step by step. And so it's like bringing awareness to people with really the question why behind what you're doing. So sometimes someone will be starting a business and I'll say, like, well, why are you starting a business? And they're just like, well, I hate my corporate job. Okay, you don't like something that you want to leave, but like what is making this business the right thing for you? Why are you sharing the thing that you're sharing? And they'll say something like, oh, there's a market need for it or something, but it's still not authentic. They're still looking outside of themselves for something. And so it's, if you start to ask yourself why you're doing the things you're doing, like, why are you maybe going to your 9 to 5 job that you hate, but you think it's the only way you can make a paycheck?
Yeah.
Or why are you hiding your spiritual gifts because you think they only want your, more technical corporate aspect of you? And when we shed those things and we actually become who we are, that's when like the magic happens. That's when you attract your audience, you attract your clients, you attract everything that you actually want. But it's really that awareness of asking yourself, why am I doing the thing I want to do? And as soon as you ask yourself and you're really honest about it, you're going to start to see like, oh, well, I'm doing this because I'm hoping it creates an opportunity. And this opportunity is, based off of something I want to experience in life, which is amazing. Or I'm doing this because it's the only way I know how to make money.
Yeah,
And so
and
that's
another example is so many entrepreneurs, you know.
Yeah.
I recently heard this and I was, you know, I took a moment to step back. I paused and, you know, I'm on my journey to become a bigger entrepreneur. But
Yeah.
I heard that some people they want to be entrepreneurs because they are in this survival mode and you know they're so tired of being not having that freedom, not
Yeah.
having you know that liberty of you know spending enough the money they want to. And so, some people, for them wanting to go for entrepreneurship is simply a trauma response.
Yes.
So, y imagine you choosing such big careers and, you know, taking that step and going so far, and midway you have a midlife crisis, thinking, "Oh my God, I'm doing this. Why? Because of my childhood traumas." So, I think
Mhm.
that's so devastating for so many people. And
Yeah.
so you're very right, obviously, about, you know, how we really need to question our why. And so I guess another question would be how, you know, even if people heal from those things, and
Mhm.
you think most of the time when people heal, do they have a different change of direction, or do they, you know, usually go for the same thing, but you know, maybe they go from a different mindset?
Yeah. I think it can be a little bit of a combination of both, depending on like how much trauma there is, right? Because everybody's got a different bag of what that trauma looks like. But most of the time, I find that they completely pivot direction. So sometimes they will be like, okay, you know, I was starting this business, and most of them do kind of still stay in the entrepreneurial journey, but the thing that they do changes because they were just doing something that they thought like could make them money. Like you're saying, that trauma response, I want freedom, so here's a thing I think I could do to start a business. Versus when they start to heal that trauma and they understand like they innately were born with magic inside of them, they innately have something incredible to share with the world, and when they tap into that, that changes the entrepreneurial journey. That is a complete switch up. It gets so much easier because then you're in this authentic frequency, which naturally brings your clients in. It naturally brings opportunities in, like it creates everything. So they don't necessarily usually leave the entrepreneurial journey. They just totally change how they do it. And then also the other thing is how they measure success usually changes. It's usually like the way they're going to measure success of their business is highly based in trauma. Like it needs, I need to appear successful. I need a lot of followers, or I need to make X amount of money, or whatever. You can still want all of those things as long as it's not feeding a wound of like, I need that amount of money to feel good. I need that amount of followers to feel valuable. They start to change how they measure success, which also allows them just more the freedom that they're actually looking for.
Yeah, yeah, you're so right. And uh, I guess another question is a lot of the work that you do, of course, shedding that matrix identity involves you, or at least requires you to go for therapy. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're as a visibility and transformational coach. Do you think people that don't have access to therapy can still shed that identity, can still work to become better? And if so, how can they do it?
I do think because I did it without any therapy or any healers. I did it totally by myself. And so um it's the harder way to do it for sure if they don't have the resources. But what I always say first, just but I'll share some ideas of how they can go about it. But the first thing is when you're truly ready for that change, God, source, spirit will make sure you have the money for the thing that you need to have. Like, so when you're actually, your soul is like, yes, I'm ready for this change. Your human avatar, the matrix identity is like on board to make a change. The resources and the opportunities for you to do that will show up right in front of you. Always happens. I can't tell you how many people will come to me and be like, well, I can't afford your services, or I can't afford this, or whatever. And I will literally tell them, just journal on anything that's stopping you from changing, and when you're on board to change, the resources will come in. And like 2 days later, they're all of a sudden like, oh my God, this unexpected check came in, or I got this bonus out of nowhere. Like now I can do this work. So one way to see if you're ready for change is if the resources appear. If not, then the healing is on like, what are you afraid of in change? And then for the person who like has no options, and they're maybe not ready for that change, the first thing to start doing is like, ask yourself, who am I? because that's a really big question to answer. That's what got me started on this journey is I was like at a rock bottom. I had no resources. I couldn't even afford my rent. I was like totally it was my rock bottom at that time. And as I was trying to like I knew I wanted to do the entrepreneurial journey. I had all of these ideas of things I could do, but I was like, who even am I and what kind, like, do I even want to do this? Like, is this what I want to do? Am I just getting back into the same cycle I was in? And that's when I started asking myself that question, who am I? The journey started to unfold. And then, even so, for people who don't have the resources, honestly, if they go watch my videos, I break down so many of the things that you need to heal to get to your core wounds. So, like, I break down step by step how you can clear shame without even working with me. It's just in the video. I go through the whole thing on the whiteboard of here's how you identify what you're ashamed of. Here's how we heal it and clear it. I do that for like self worth, the fear, like all the different things that come up. And then there's so many resources out there, whether they search on TikTok or YouTube or any of the platforms. If you just type in what question you have, you're going to start watching videos. That's what I did. I had no money. So I would just go and watch videos and I would Google things and be like, what is an identity? How do I figure out what my identity is? And then you just go down that rabbit hole and you'll find things and you'll start to unravel it.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. And when you said that, you really should ask yourself, who am I? That's so unique in a way that, a lot of the times as humans, we second guess our purpose. We
Mhm.
sometimes we don't even know what it is. So
Yeah,
asking yourself, and of course, are you a firm believer in God?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of the times God is listening. So if you ask yourself that question, of course, He answers. And also the thing about how you if you don't have the resources, that means you need to do healing. That is so powerful. And
Mhm.
a lot of times I've really sat down with myself and I'm trying to manifest this one thing, and I'm like, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. I just need it now. Why is it not coming? And
Yeah.
in hindsight, when you look back and you see why that wasn't the case, you not now you see God's plan, why he didn't give it to you. So I think
Yeah.
that's so powerful, and I've never really heard that one before, despite my endless doom scrolling on manifestation and all of those things.
Yeah.
I've never heard that one before, so that was really good. I want
Yeah.
you to share a bit more on that, on, a bit how people can, heal from shame, especially is such a strong emotion, and
Yeah.
the way it holds back so many people. And, so many of these creators, they want to they want to be really bold and fearless and say the things that they really feel like saying, be themselves, but they think, oh my God, what if that one person watches it? You know, what
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
what will they think? And
Yeah.
that really holds you back, and it's so pathetic because people don't care.
Right.
Everybody's in their own lives. So, what would you say to a person like that? And they at least have the confidence to take that first step.
Yeah. One of the first most powerful things you can do, and this is a tool I use constantly every time I'm up leveling or doing something new in any area of my life, is I walk through my worst case scenario. So I pick whatever that is. Is it a specific person seeing it? Is it a negative comment? Is it whatever that worst case is? And I literally walk through that step by step, and I'm like, okay, so if this person sees it, what's the worst thing that could happen? Okay, well, they could make fun of me. Okay, so they're making fun of me, and maybe they tell other people. Now, all of these people are making fun of me. Like, how am I going to handle that situation? And I'm like, okay, well, it's going to feel kind of crappy. It doesn't feel
Yeah,
good to have that happen. But also, will I even know if they're making fun of me? Maybe, like, am I even talking? Because a lot of times it's like high school friends they're worried about, like, that they haven't seen in years, or coworkers or whatever. And if they think about that about me, what am I making true about myself? So I'm allowing them to give me a belief about myself. So how do I now create a belief that is no longer available to be altered by the outside? And then the second part I always do is bring the validation inside. You shouldn't be looking outside of yourself for validation or the negativity. So, in the same way, you don't want to put that much emphasis on the negative comments, you don't want to put that much emphasis on the positive comments because it still comes back to like, am I just expressing myself regardless, or am I looking for something on the outside to tell me that it's okay for me to say this thing?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's so powerful. And everybody has a ritual, you could say, or their own practice, their own habit that they usually do to feel more confident, feel more within themselves.
Yeah.
So what is it for you?
Yeah, I have before I post, I have like a little ritual I do. So I create I usually have some type of an idea in my head and I create my content. And then before I hit post, I do affirmations to myself and I call these affirmation rants. So I'll kind of get into the feeling of what I'm posting out there, and I really anchor in again to the why. Like, why is it important for me to share this? And like, so for me, my mission is this movement of visibility and helping people overcome the fear of being themselves. So I anchor into why that's so important, right? Because I know how it changed my life, so I know how it'll change other people's lives. So it's really important for me to get this message out. So I start to get into that feeling of like, this is really important, I have to do this, like it's so powerful, it's impactful. And then I go into affirmations like, I'm safe to be seen. I know that my content will be showed to the right people. And so, whatever affirmations kind of come through, I just do a rant with them. And then, right before I post, I always just pray to God, like, take this to the people who need to see it. Because I do believe God is always weaving everything together for us. And, like, when you want to heal something, all of a sudden somebody will show up on your algorithm. And I feel like that's all God's work, right? So, for me, I'm like, hey, take this video to those who need this help. Show somebody who's struggling with this thing today, this message, and let when they see this video, whether or not they watch it, let them feel like love and light in their body. And then I release it and I post it.
That's so selfless and so powerful at the same time, because here we are, it did reach the right people. And so now
Right.
your message is being multiplied, of course, when we post this. So, I'm curious a bit about, I see all of these tarot girls on my For You page, and so
Yeah.
many people, it's so lovely to see how so many women, so many people, they've really started to channel their psychic abilities. And I'm just curious, how does that feel for you? Usually you hear them say, I got this channeled message. And so is it just your intuition speaking, or is it like something else?
Yeah, it's different every time. I think it's different for every person. So I actually started off in doing tarot readings. That was the first things
Oh,
I ever posted on
uh-huh.
social media. And then what I found is that the readings are really helpful, but nobody knows how to like actually integrate the information they receive. So they hear it, it feels good, like, oh, okay, this is coming in for me, but they don't know what to do with that information, which again generally means like you need to take some type of action forward. Like if it's like, oh, you're going to be famous someday, well, you need to start posting content or you need to like, so there's that piece. So that's where I got into like the coaching part of it. But um I think everyone's gifts are a little bit different. And so when someone's channeling, often it can come in many ways. So there's like the knowing where all of a sudden you just have this information that's not your own. And you know it's not your own. It wasn't that something you were thinking about. There's just this information. Other times it's like a divine light being that you're talking to. And so you can hear them, you can see them. It's like in your third eye, there's a conversation that's happening. Other times it is intuition and it's like being guided by something within you. So it's a little bit different for everybody, but I do believe God and our guides talk to us in every way possible through the algorithm, through billboards, through license plates, through the people we meet. Like, I think God is always talking to us if we're just, can listen to it.
Yeah, that's so true. There are always signs for anybody who's looking for them.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question to you would be, if somebody wants to work with you, if somebody wants to, benefit from the more knowledge that you have and, work with you one-on-one,
Mhm.
and they get booked with you, what are those first things that you take them through, and what's the roadmap, and what's the whole journey that you take them with?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So the first thing when someone comes in, we usually anchor in like, what is the thing you're trying to break through on? What's the goal that you want? And a lot of times it's getting their business off the ground, it's getting their visibility out there. Sometimes it's leaving codependent dynamics, whatever it is. So we anchor into what that is. And then I tap in with them of like, what's in your way of doing this?
Mhm.
And then I tap into like my psychic intuitive channel to understand like, because you have the conscious mind, which says, I'm ready to be visible. Then you have the subconscious mind, which says, I'm not ready to be visible. And then you have the unconscious, where all the core wounds lie as to why your subconscious is saying no.
Mhm.
Because that can be really confusing. They're like, no, I'm ready. And I'm like, okay, then why aren't you doing it? There's the subconscious is telling you something different, right? So I use my psychic channeling to tap into what's going on in the quantum field with their unconscious to find like what are the core wounds that are impacting this person that are keeping them from breaking through. And then we map out addressing those core wounds. And then from there, we start to actually map out like now that they've cleared those wounds, let's reclaim your identity that those wounds, like the true you that those wounds stopped you from becoming. And then as you do that, let's check back into your vision. Is that vision still aligned or do we need to tweak it? And then what do we need to do to create a plan to get you to that vision, to that highest timeline? And so that's essentially the journey that I bring people through.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, that's really unique and really great how you integrate all three, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, because, in order to reach the subconscious mind, you first need to start talking with the conscious mind. So that's
Yeah.
really powerful. Taylor, this was lovely. Sorry, Christian, I just had
That's
a
okay.
talk with another guest and her name is Taylor, but
No
Christian, this was
worries.
lovely. And, I wish you the best with what you're doing. I think you're doing a great job. And, despite, of course, we all, each coach has our one-on-one program. But what I really appreciate is the fact that they give out free knowledge to the world and, it reaches people who don't have access to a lot of money to pay for those programs, but they're still helped by people like you in so many ways. So,
Yeah.
on behalf of all of those people, on behalf of the world, I really want to
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was so great to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing your journey too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was lovely. So I think this will just stop the recording.